people love when we talk about blood and periods, on TikTok. Went viral, gained like $10 million views as well. And we were like shocked. It's not about like selling products, but more to build a community and then storytelling around like period experiences. And that really took off. We produce a lot of content, what women go through to tell that you're not alone. Every woman goes through it. There are all these like discomforts and uncomfortable moments, but Rael is there to help you.
And we're back. All right, guys, welcome back. We have an incredible episode lined up for you today. We have Yanghee Paik. She is the CEO and co-founder of Rael. She is going through a lot with us today, from how she raised money for her brand, the one dinner that changed her entire life, and the story that hit a little too close to home.
Yeah, this conversation's so good. She gives us so many knowledge nuggets and tips of how she went from her corporate job at Disney into jumping into the world of entrepreneurship. There is really so much to unpack, and we're excited to get into it. But we always like to start at the beginning of kind of where your career started, or maybe your story in general. Just take us back to the start.
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me. So I always start by saying I have a pretty international background. So I'm Korean. I was born in Korea, and my family moved around quite a bit. So I lived in Paris between age 3 and 6. That's where my first memory starts. And then my family moved back to Korea. And then my dad was relocated to New York office when I was in middle school. So spent 3 years in New Jersey, and then went back to Korea, went to college there, and then worked as a consultant for a few years. And in my early 20s, it was my dream to come back to the US to build my career. So I left my home and family behind almost 20 years ago to come to the US to go to business school. So was lucky enough to get into Harvard MBA. And to be very honest with you, back then, my passion was in entertainment. So I came from an entertainment background. And something that's happening now, how a lot of Korean content is very popular in Hollywood. So like K-pop, Korean dramas, Korean movies. In my 20s, I thought I wanted to learn from Hollywood and then go back to Korea and then revolutionize the Korean entertainment business. And I want to be the one bringing the Korean content to Hollywood. So that's what I thought I would do in my 20s, almost like 20 years ago. So my idea was, okay, so after MBA, I would move to LA. I would work in one of the movie studios in Hollywood, and then gain the experience that I needed. So I did consulting for a couple of years in LA, and then I got a job on the strategy team at the Walt Disney Studios. So I worked at Disney for almost 8 years. And my job entailed strategy at the beginning, but I moved to the sales team at the studio after a little while. And it was actually pretty daunting because I came from the strategy consulting background. And then suddenly one day my boss was like, Yanghee, we're moving to a sales team. And I was like, I don't know how to sell things. I was a strategy person. And I moved to the sales team of the movie studio, but it was more like movie deal making, so business development type of role. So my clients were like iTunes, Google, Amazon, tech media companies, and we would be on the studio side striking deals with them, like a licensing deal. So it was actually a lot of fun because it was the intersection between tech media and content. So I learned a lot, and then we made a lot of impact. And it's kind of funny. This is like 12 years ago, 15 years ago. And then the biggest concern at the studio at that time was people were watching movies on DVD, Blu-ray still. And then we wanted to move people to digital. And then it just kind of happened, during COVID organically. But that's like what we focused on back then. But I always say life is really interesting. I thought I had my dream job. Coming from Korea, like working at Disney was such a big deal. So I thought this is my dream job. I'm going to retire from Disney, or I'm going to, go to Korea to do the entertainment stuff. But after about like 8 years, I started becoming a little, skeptical about the passion that I had because, I thought I would move back to Korea and do all that. But I knew that I was not quite ready to go back to Korea. I loved being here. So I wanted to continue building my career in the US. And then to do what I thought I wanted to do, I should have gained more creative background, like creative experience, like working with directors and, like writers and, like the celebrities and all of that. And my job was still very corporate, at Disney. So I just realized that, it just didn't kind of pan out that I expected. So I was like soul searching a bit. And then I did an interview with a Korean newspaper who wanted to write about my journey from Korea to the US and then consulting in the movie studio. So I did that. And then one day I got an email, text message, calls from a woman, my co-founder, Anes, basically, who said that I read your interview. Your story is really interesting, inspiring. Can I meet you? I write about women. So my co-founder actually came from a writing background, and she was a best-selling author in Korea who wrote about woman empowerment, female leadership stories. So she said that she was really inspired by my story, and she wanted to interview me. So we met up one day in West Hollywood, and we just like hit it off, over dinner. Yeah. And then after like 2-hour conversation, she asked me like, Yanghee, do you know how like pads and tampons are made? Like, have you ever thought about it?
You're like, what a question.
You're like,
And I was like, this is a really random thing to talk about after a nice dinner. So like, I was pretty honest. I was like, I never really thought about it. But I'm sure they're made with like cotton, natural ingredients, something still like, natural and healthy. And then she told me that actually, she's been looking for more natural, healthy options after she had babies, because usually like after you had babies, you start thinking about ingredients, what touches your bodies and all of that. So she was really into finding more organic, natural solutions after she had 2 babies. And then when she asked me, I didn't know well. And then, she told me that actually a lot of the products that we use, that we find at stores are made with synthetic plastic ingredients. And we've been basically putting plastic into our bodies. And if you think about it, you use these period care products every month for almost like 40 years of your life, So even though it's only like, like 4 or 5 days a month, in total, it's a lot of time of your life, when you're using these products. So I was pretty shocked to learn that, these actually contained not the healthiest and safest ingredients. But what really shocked me was actually, I consider myself pretty well educated, but then I didn't know anything about this. And to be frank, like I wasn't even like questioning or interested in learning about this. So it was a big problem that we've been so ignorant about this intimate parts or intimate products that we use all the time. So got kind of like really interested in the conversation with my co-founder, but she asked me basically like whether I was interested in starting a business with her. So she comes from
on your first dinner?
I know, yeah. So it's like getting a proposal on the first date.
I was about to say, like a couple dinners first. Maybe.
I know. So it was kind of shocking everything that happened on that evening. So she basically told me that she comes from a writing background, and that she has a friend who comes from a graphic design background, and she's been looking for somebody with business background who could be the CEO and who could run the business with her. So she's been searching, and then she read about me through the newspaper. And then she was like, this is my CEO. I'm going to go after her. So after the 2-hour conversation, basically, I think I passed the interview.
Oh, she courted you.
I know. So, on the spot, I had to tell her, well, I mean, it was a very interesting conversation, but thank you, but no thank you. I've been in entertainment business for like 10 years of my life, and I came to the US for this, so I don't know if I'm ready to just abandon my dream job and then do something different, So I kind of like left the dinner, but then I started thinking about this a lot, after the dinner conversation, because I think I was like thirsty for something big and something impactful in my life. I came to the US with my American dream, and I thought I would do something very big. And then Disney was fun, my job was really cool, but there are just so many layers, corporate. So there was like VP, SVP, EVP, president, CEO. Like in order to get anything done, it has to like just go through so many hoops. And I felt like, it's gonna take forever for me to be in that position to make decisions. And when I was in business school, we were always like getting the training to be the CEO and then making decisions. And then in reality, I was like so many layers behind, to be that position. So I started thinking about this, and I was like, I came to the US with a dream of really doing something meaningful, impactful with my heritage from Korea, my Korean background. And, although it's not entertainment, if I can do something meaningful, impactful here, then I think it could be still very meaningful. Because actually another conversation I had with my co-founder during that dinner was, a lot of Korean women who moved to the US are very disappointed by the feminine care products in the US because you know K-beauty, like how hot K-beauty is.
Yeah. But what is the feminine care products in Korea? How are they different?
Yeah, so Korean products, I think, went through just so many innovations because it's not a market that is dominated by just like a couple of big companies. So there are a lot of competition. So it's just kind of like K-beauty. There are a lot of smaller brands in Korea in feminine care. So they're constantly pushing the envelope to make more high-performing, comfortable products. So we're used to using a lot of high-quality products back in Korea. And after we came to the US, we're like, we only have a few options, you know, on the shelf. And they're full of, now I know, like synthetic, you know, plastic ingredients, and just like the lack of choices in the US kind of like bothered me and also shocked me. So my co-founders and I like started talking about it. So the idea was basically, okay, so women need more organic natural options in feminine care. But then at the same time, if we brought the Korean technology that we know, then it could be a game changer because the product will work really well. Because I think in the old days, people had this perception that when you choose a healthy option, then you're sacrificing performance or comfort or something. That's the reason why the organic natural options didn't really take off. But in our case, we thought that we could bring an option made with organic natural ingredients, but at the same time, it could actually perform even better than the conventional products. And it could be a little more expensive because of the raw material cost, but still, like you're not sacrificing anything. Then this could be a game changer in the U.S. market. So after that dinner with my co-founder, I started just kind of thinking about, the opportunities with this. So, okay, so I'll be making a decision. It could be a team of 5, but still I'm the CEO. I'll be making my decisions, and then things will move really fast. And then too, I'll be able to leverage my, heritage from Korea and then do something meaningful and then bring something very novel to the U.S. market. So I thought that was also very inspiring. And then just the fact that as women, female founders, doing something that would help other women, we're going to help their lifestyle, well-being, educating them, and then empowering them to make better choices. I thought the mission was also very, very inspiring and meaningful. So I think it took about 3 months for me to make a decision, So I did a lot of market research. I talked to a lot of experts in the market and just kind of thought through my finances and everything. Okay,
are you still at Disney at this time?
I was at Disney, yeah. So I was just kind of like evaluating, or like how long can I survive without getting my stable paycheck and all of that.
How advanced was the business at that point, though?
No, actually, my co-founders are pivoting because they used to do more reusable pads in the past. Yeah, but then they decided to more get into disposable, period care. So that's when they discovered me and then wanted me to be more like the operator, the face of the brand. Yeah, so the idea existed, but then the operation was not really, running. So I would start with them, and then we would actually pivot the business to be more focused on disposable period care, and then a new brand would launch, which was Rael. Yeah, so left my stable job at Disney and then joined my co-founders, and then the journey started then. Yeah.
Wow, what a journey that sounds like. I mean, going from the stability of Disney and going into this like great unknown must have been so exciting, but also terrifying.
Oh yeah, it is.
I mean, I'm like, are you telling my story right now?
I know there was so many.
There's
similarities.
so many similar.
Yeah,
I mean, like
totally.
Down to you having dinner with like your co-founder. I came from Warner Brothers, and worked in stable job. Got the itch to like start a company. Met Lauren at a brunch, so brunch instead of dinner. We did go on a few dates first, though, I will say, before we decided we should start a company.
And we were working together too. And I think like being able to have that like synergy with your co-founders is so important from the get-go.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I'm curious, what were some of your first hires that you guys brought on to kind of help start building that team when you were brought on?
So we actually had a pretty bold channel strategy of launching on Amazon first.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is back in 2017 when direct-to-consumer, like there was like a heyday of direct-to-consumer. Everybody was jumping into it. And then Amazon was considered somewhat, not a sexy platform, but we thought hard about it. And then we realized that, in order to do D2C, of course, it's sexy and all that, but it takes a lot of capital, to bring new traffic to a new platform. And then just the concept of organic feminine care was also pretty novel. And then making people to understand the benefits of organic and launching a new website and spending all the money to bring new people, we thought was too much. So we decided to launch on Amazon first. So I would say building the Amazon team was actually our first task. So we brought a couple of people who could help us, put products on Amazon. And then also we had people packing in the background, to send products to Amazon. So we started like a little operation to start our products on Amazon.
One-stop shop.
Yeah. And then that's how everything started. And then after we gained a lot of traction with the Amazon business, then we got money from VCs, and that's when we built our website, D2C site, and then also got prepared, to launch at big retailers. But at the very beginning, the operation was more focused on Amazon, and it was kind of funny because all the VC money was going into direct to consumer, so we had to push back really hard on all the advice that we got from our VC investors. And then,
what was some of that advice?
I mean, it's kind of like, it's really hard to build a brand on Amazon. Like, you're going to be a product company if you continue just being on Amazon. You have to launch a D2C site and do a lot of Facebook marketing. And then just like, a lot of investors kind of told us to follow what everybody was doing. And then we were kind of like on our own journey. Like, we don't want to listen to what other people do, but we were going to just like stick to our strategy. And then what we actually really wanted to do was, on Amazon, you're actually getting really honest feedback about the products. People, Amazon shoppers are very detailed when they write.
They don't hold back.
Yeah, I know they're very honest. So like in the early stage, we read every single review that we got, and then we incorporate their feedback in the next batch that we produce with our factory. So. The product we're selling now, our organic cotton covered pads, it's the 7th edition of its own. So like every time we go back to the factory, we're able to adjust the features to make them perfect. Or, just like listening to the customers, we knew what else we could do to make it better. So we wanted to use Amazon to really listen to the customer voice and then incorporate their feedback in our product enhancement. And also like our goal was, okay, let's just prove our concept. Let's see if there's a market for organic pads and organic liners. And then, on Amazon, what's good is the Amazon customers are already opening their wallet there. Like they're ready to purchase because they're searching for a particular product they want to buy, right? So that's how we leverage the Amazon opportunity and then the customers at the beginning. And now looking back, that was actually the right strategy because everybody now is jumping into Amazon. All the D2C companies are trying to grow their presence on Amazon. And then we were able to actually establish ourselves and then gain a lot of customer insights from, being on Amazon and then continue growing our business from there.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're able to make like kind of the renditions every time just based on getting the real feedback. As you were kind of going through building that strategy, what did that look like in the very beginning to kind of where you've evolved it to now?
So like the beginning part was kind of just like proving our product concept. And then I would say perfecting the product features, to be ready to go big. So, so after doing that, the next stage was, building the brand. So we had the Amazon team initially with like a few people who packed and then, sent the product for us. But then the next move was we built a small marketing team to start being on social media and then just building the brand story and then thinking about kind of like the evolution of a product portfolio. So that's when actually the holistic cycle care concept all started because like at the very beginning, the conversation I had with my co-founders was very much on, okay, we want to do something that would help women's well-being and lifestyle. And then we see this great gap in feminine care where we can focus on organic natural. But then after we had an initial success with that, we wanted to think about how we wanted to build a brand. So with the small marketing team, we came up with the idea of holistic cycle care. And then we want to be more than just like a tampon company. And then from there, we launched our D2C site, and then we started pitching to the retailers. And then as we gained traction with Target, we started building a small sales team so that we can be ready for the expansion, in retail. And then once we got into the retail, then it became like a full operation, like a true company, true like CPG company, although the size is very small. So, we built a proper operations team, proper finance team, and now we have this like 40 people team in the US across like all the functions we've got. And then actually what happened between all of these was we launched our Korea office because we manufacture most of our products in Korea. So it made sense for us to build a team there who focuses on product development. And then we also do business in Korea as well. So from like the 5 people that we had 7 years ago, now we are like almost like 80 people operation across the globe, between Korea and the US.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I'm sure you look back, you're like, wow, like that one dinner
I know.
changed everything.
My life, yeah.
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 Incredible. Whenever you are thinking about product development and kind of making those decisions and thinking about expansion and the direction of the company, what are some of the things that you are thinking about? Why are you thinking about them and why are they important?
Mm-hmm. So what sets us apart from the competition, I would say, is the way we look at product evolution or portfolio. So we want it to be holistic in what we do. So holistic meaning, like in the beginning, we were only addressing the needs of women in that first week of the month, when women are bleeding. But we didn't think that was enough. We wanted to be there with women throughout the whole cycle. So we stepped back and thought about all the troubles and concerns women deal with throughout the 4 weeks of the cycle. So after, bleeding, women deal with a lot of pH balance issues and then feminine hygiene issues. So we got into feminine wash and feminine wipes and then try to introduce more natural solutions for them. And then the next move came, we got into skincare, which was a big, bold move, basically. And that idea.
Why was it a bold move, do you say?
Because it just like theoretically it's pretty far. The pads and tampons and then like skincare serum and cleanser. People don't necessarily think that a same brand can cover those. But the way we expanded it was personally. I dealt with a lot of hormonal acne and breakouts. So when I thought about my hormonal cycle, I was like, I hate my period because always 2-3 days before my period started, I would deal with all these like chin acne.
Yeah, and they hurt and the hormonal.
Yeah, and then my skin breaks out and it's a sign that my period is coming. It's on its way. So at that time, I didn't know the science behind it. But then as I looked into this more, it's like every woman goes through 4 weeks of the cycle. And then week 1 is when you bleed. And then, you have like dry skin. And that's when estrogen level is starting to go up. And then, the second week is when estrogen level like starts to go up for the ovulation. And then after ovulation, estrogen level starts to go down and progesterone goes up. And that's when all the sebum production, hormonal acne, like breakouts happen. So there's a connection between skin conditions and then hormonal changes. And then obviously the menstrual cycle as well. But it's something that we don't really talk about or we don't even care, and
I just recently learned about it. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, so I think people who try to have, babies like pregnant, they have been following their cycle, so I think they're more conscious. But people who have not had that experience, they just live their life. I mean, one day they have breakouts and they don't know why it's happening. But in our mind, we as women, we need to listen to our body and know what we're going through. And then it's kind of empowerment. If you know like what you're going through and how to take care of yourself, better, then, you can actually own like, health. So for us, that concept was really interesting and was something that we wanted to educate women about. So we launched pimple patches, we launched the facial sheet mask. And then after gaining a lot of acne customers, we also launched our Miracle Clear line, which is skincare essentials, focused on acne prone skin type. So I want to say that was a bold move and pretty progressive concept, coming from pads and tampons, organic pads and tampons, going into natural feminine hygiene and leading to, pimple patches and facial sheet masks, like focused on hormonal acne and then now like skincare essentials for acne prone skin type. It was like a journey to build a product portfolio. But what I'm really grateful about is people started really understanding what we're talking about. Like at the beginning, I think not everybody knew like the connections between skin conditions and hormonal changes and all that. But we've been using our TikTok, we've been using editor, help, and then influencers, and they love to talk about it because it's something that everyone goes through, but we don't talk much about. So it's kind of like a new information that we can tell to our audience. So that helped us a lot. And finally, like last year, we also launched feminine wellness supplements. So that's kind of like completing our kind of wellness offerings, for our audience. So now we call ourselves a holistic cycle care brand. So we started as a organic pet company almost, but then throughout the 7-year journey, we evolved to be a more holistic wellness brand. And we're very proud that we're doing something progressive that no other brand has done.
I love that. Yeah. And I feel like people are trying to learn more about their own health. And it is this kind of lack of education, right? We're not really taught how our cycle even really works, like how it's all synced up to everything. Like you said, people break out and they don't ever like realize the correlation. So as you were kind of going through just the basic education for your customer, I know you mentioned using social media, influencers, things like that. Were there any kind of like tricks or like tips that you could give that helped you kind of stand out amongst that crowd? Because I feel like, especially going from, personal care to skincare, that becomes a pretty crowded market. So what did you do to kind of help keep your customer educated and informed, but also stand out in a market like that?
I would say for us, TikTok was kind of like a breakthrough, because we were very active on Instagram before TikTok came, but I think Instagram was not as easy for us because, it's about beautiful photos, like very professionally done, static images and pad, tampons, like period. It's not as easy to communicate through these like static images. And then once we moved to TikTok and started videos and storytelling that way, that's when I think kind of like we started getting a lot more traction because actually what's really interesting is our period content works really well on TikTok. And it's not the most sophisticated content. It's kind of like our young marketers in the office would pour red liquid, so red blood on the pad, and then kind of talks about different colors, the blood can be, and then that tells different things about your health. And we also even kind of funnily talked about like period poop that nobody talks about. Like, women go through some digestive, issues. So we kind of like, and then also like mood swings, that women, deal with, throughout their hormonal cycle. So we produce a lot of content, what women go through to tell that you're not alone. Every woman goes through it. There are all these like discomforts and uncomfortable moments, but Rael is there to help you. But it's not about like selling products, but more to build a community and then storytelling around like period experiences. And that really took off. And then there were some few like blood pour images, videos that went viral, gained like $10 million views as well. And we were like shocked. Oh my God, people love this kind of stuff. Because we were testing like very pretty beauty images and then like videos and all the other stuff. And then pimple patches also gain a lot of traction on TikTok. But people love when we talk about blood and periods, on TikTok and in a very like raw way. So just like talking about what every woman goes through in a very honest way. People love that kind of content. And what we love about it is people actually write their feedback real time. And they're like, I go through the same thing, or I'm actually in this way. Am I, something's wrong with me or not? So there's like a lot of feedback about what they go through. And then they also like throw some like product ideas. I wish there was a product like that, So that's how we gain a lot of insights about customers, how they think about our products and also what new opportunities there exist. So I want to say the TikTok and also the video content really helped us educate women and then really tell our story because it's a pretty complex thing to talk about, the hormonal changes and how that impacts our bodies. Yeah. And I think the video communication really helped us.
Yeah, amazing. I feel like TikTok has been such a great platform for people to be able to kind of build those relationships because that's what it is, right? It's like building that relationship to where people can trust and come to you for that kind of advice and education.
Yeah. And obviously influencers also helped a lot. Yeah. And what's also helpful about our holistic approach is, we would meet like a wellness, influencer. And then they love that we do not only wellness, but also beauty. So, we talk about them together. And then we would approach a beauty influencer, but then she loves to talk about wellness in the same way. So just being able to really talk about like what we do in a holistic way through the influencers, eyes was also very helpful. And one thing interesting that we did last year was we also brought some influencers to Korea. So we had our own brand trip, and then we brought some people to Korea. You know how all these like beauty brands are taking influencers to exotic places. And last year we actually took them to Korea, my mother country. And it was also kind of like a big decision because on one hand, we were like, oh, everybody's going to like Hawaii, Mexico, like exotic places. And then Korea is kind of like, it's not a wellness retreat, but, there's a lot of like K-beauty stuff happening. So it was a little controversial, but we felt like, people will learn a lot about K-beauty, like how advanced the technologies are. And it's not only about beauty, but just kind of like the philosophy behind wellness in Korea. And the influencers that we brought to Korea loved it. So I think that was also one big initiative that we did last year that was very successful.
I think there's been so much talk about brand trips and things like that recently across the board. Whenever you think of doing a brand trip, I think at something at this level, obviously you've had to reach a certain level of success to even maybe consider something like that. Are you looking at like ROI, you said, and things like that for doing something like that? Of like, how are we going to look at a brand trip of being something that's going to bring us back in revenue? Or are you just saying this is an experience that we just want to give to these influencers and hopefully down the line it'll pay off? What are some of those conversations that are happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that we talk a lot about in our marketing wrap up. I want to say it's not an immediate revenue lift. It's more brand awareness campaign. And then in influencer marketing, we track EMV, media earned value. So just kind of like tracking that so that we understand how much exposure we had, through the content, that we gained through the influencers is kind of the KPI that we track. So last year, through the trip, there was millions of EMV that we earned, and it actually exceeded our expectation as well. And then I think we actually met a lot of people, also customers, who say like, oh, I learned about you guys through that Korea trip that you brought this, my favorite TikTok influencer, things like that. So it was just kind of like one way for us to get our name out there. And people not necessarily knew that Rael was leveraging Korean technology because, we're a Californian brand. We're not a Korean company. So we were a little shy about talking about Korea too explicitly, but it was an organic way to talk about the root, the heritage of the founders and where the technology comes from. And, just like I wanted to do K-pop, I wanted to show off our Korean culture. And now I think there's a very positive association with the Korean technology, like K-beauty and all of that. So I think it was like a very organic way of telling the brand story in a very effective way.
I love that. I love too that you've always listened to your gut and like your intuition on things, even when it's like maybe gone against the grain a little bit.
Yeah.
I love that. So do you have any maybe like piece of advice or like words of wisdom that maybe you came up with or someone has given to you that has really stuck with you through the years?
It may not be the most encouraging, but, when I first started,
I'm like, oh, what is she going to say?
No, when I first started, everything was going very well, soon after we launched on Amazon, we became a bestseller. And then the fundraising at the beginning was pretty smooth. So everything was just going just like we planned. And then there was one friend of mine who used to be an entrepreneur. He actually told me that just be ready. It's not going to be like this forever. There will be ups and downs, and just be ready for the worst, case scenario. It always happens in an entrepreneur journey. There's no way that an entrepreneur journey can just be very smooth. And even though from other entrepreneurs, they come out on podcasts and make it sound like everything was easy and it was all the success, but behind, there were always a lot of ups and downs and some failures that happen that may not be told, publicly. So he warned me, and I was like, oh, okay, but I think we're going to do well. Kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know if you know, but I'm the exception to that.
But then soon after, we went through a lot, so there was a lot of ups and downs. And
what were some of them?
I mean, like our first launch at retail was not as successful or great as we thought, like because we were doing really well on Amazon and we felt like the moment we launched at retail, it's going to sell like crazy. But then it was a complete different game, in retail, you're sitting next to all the popular brands who have millions of dollars of marketing budget and on Amazon, we had the reviews that helped us, like 5-star reviews. So people read the reviews, and even though they did not know us too well, they would give us a try. But sitting on the shelf with all the other brands, it was pretty challenging at the beginning. And we didn't have too much money, obviously. So we were like, we're very used to running ads on Amazon, digital ads and all of that, and populating nice reviews. But like in retail, oh my God, this is like a little drop in the ocean, whatever we do in marketing, right, with little dollars. So we learned that in order to stand out on the shelf, we had to refine our packaging a little bit to be able to, really speak to the customers who are only on the aisle. Because in the digital world, you have the PDPs, you have all the descriptions, so there's so much other supporting information. But at retail, it's just the packaging and only like the front packaging.
Not even the whole thing.
Yeah. So I think we learned a lot, from the launch. So that was kind of like a big stress when we first launched, and kind of shifting the company's strategies and the way we've been also doing packaging and all of that.
Were you walking down the aisle, up and down the aisles of Target, every Target?
I did that a lot. Yeah. And I would just observe people, they would
watching
pick us up and then put it down and then go to the next one.
Did you start walking by? You're like, that is my favorite. You should totally try it.
I almost did it.
You're like, tell me why you put it back.
Yeah. And if somebody's buying non-organic product, I wanted to tell them that it's plastic, Yeah, so I went through that phase. And then I also want to say that fundraising is not easy. I think our Series A was a bit more smooth because, at that time, femtech was really hot. So there was a lot of kind of interest in femtech. So I think we took advantage of that. But then when we did Series B, the market was starting to shift to profitability and then being a lot more, I think, demanding about the finances and all of that. So it took a while for us to finish our Series B. And then I think pitching while you see your cash balance going down is the most scary things, because when you go talk to the investors, you have to look like, I don't even need the money,
Yeah.
And then you come back home and watching the cash balance and oh my God, I need the money now,
Right,
kind of thing.
Exactly. You got to go in with all the confidence in the world.
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to reach profitability?
I would say 5 years. Yeah. But, it's 7 years ago when we first started, people were not even expecting startups to be profitable. So that was just the way things were. And then looking left and right, all these CPG companies or D2C companies were raising money like crazy, and then just throwing money into Facebook marketing, and then it was okay to be unprofitable. And then not suddenly, but 3-4 years ago, I think the market really shifted. And then now, we feel lucky that at least when we were smaller, we were not expected to be profitable, so that was okay. But when I speak to my entrepreneur friends who are in the early stage, now they're even expected to be profitable in the early stage to gain some investment from VC. So it's really tough, as a CPG brand to be profitable from the early stage. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that so much has shifted. And as you guys have kind of gone through those processes, is there any maybe piece of advice that you could give somebody who's maybe going into a raise now?
I want to say really focus on your economics, gross profit margins. So there's so much financial analysis you can do. I think it took us a while to be really buttoned up and disciplined about doing all the profit analysis, P&L analysis, because it was not as needed at the beginning when we started. But I think nowadays you really have to understand the margin and then gross profit margin, and then focus on, how you're going to scale and then get to the profitability. So I think having that understanding and then discipline around your finances is really important. So even though you're not, profitable now at the moment when you're pitching, just knowing exactly how you're going to get to the profitability level is really important. And I think all the VCs are expecting you to be very clear about your plan to be profitable. So I think whatever your background is, I think that's something that's expected nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As you look back on your journey, anything that you would have done differently?
That's a tough question. As I talked about the challenges at retail, I think we could have been more prepared, just kind of like studying really what it would take, to be successful at retail, and also thinking harder about the marketing strategies that would help the retail sales, because we came from the digital background, so it was a big transition for us. So I think launching at retail after you study, understand everything, could have helped. But we learned from our learn from our mistakes. That's how a lot of companies learn. So I think that's one thing. And then secondly, looking back, I think I could have also brought more experienced people, senior people, like more early on. Yeah, I mean, I try to be too many things, for such a long time, and just like to save money. And then I just like felt that responsibility that as the founder, I need to play so many, different roles. But I think I could have gotten more help, from the more like earlier stage. So I think those two maybe something I could have done differently.
Yeah, that's great. So we always like to end, and we always like to know, what are you up to next? What is your next big move as you've gone through kind of this journey and evolution with the company? What's next?
Still like telling the holistic cycle care story is our biggest, initiative. We have a lot of customers, who know us as a Rael Beauty, like a beauty company, but they're not necessarily using our feminine care. And there are a lot of organic pad users, who may not know about our beauty just yet. So we want to make sure that they understand that we're a holistic brand and we do a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. And after that, our big mission is actually to be a companion brand to women throughout their life. So, we talked a lot about holistic cycle care, how we want to be there throughout the 4 weeks of the cycle. But what we truly want to do is, we want to be there when women get their first period, when they get pregnant, when they have postpartum, perimenopause, and menopause. There are all these moments, the hormonal transitions that happen in women's lives, which are very critical, but not much is really talked about, even like perimenopause and menopause, those opportunities. So now we're focused on more the menstrual kind of like time, but I think as we get older as a brand, we want to cover the whole life cycle of women. So that's our big mission, and then a vision that we have for the company.
That's beautiful. Amazing. This has been such a lovely conversation, and I think definitely learned so much about so many things. And I'm sure your story is going to inspire so many women. So thank you. Bye. All right. If you like this episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
And be sure to follow us at Forward Female and Her Next Big Move for more.